Joining me today is New Hampshire Representative Neal Kurk, who's chair of the House Finance Committee. Neal, let's continue conversation around the budget. So the governor's going to pass the continuing resolution, which will keep the state open for business, functioning as it would have today.
In the same way
June,
it is this
July,
year.
July and June, we'll see no difference. And you've got how many months before that continuing resolution runs out?
6.
So you gave yourself a lot of time.
The reason is that we need to wait until September when the year closes from an accounting point of view. The annual comprehensive annual financial report is due at that time from the Comptroller General. And that's going to resolve one of the major issues that the governor has with the legislative budget. The governor believes that the amount of money that is going to be carried over, remaining unspent after the end of this year, is very much smaller than the amount that the legislature assumes. If she's right, we'll find out one way or another in September when the report comes out. If she's wrong and the legislature is right, then our budget can go forward. But if the legislature is wrong, there isn't such a large amount of money left to be carried over to the next year, then we will have to go back as legislators and redo the budget and either raise additional revenue, make some reductions in the budget, or look to see whether other revenues are coming in higher than anticipated.
So talk me through this. I would think she wouldn't want to gamble on the revenue declining. That this budget, I mean,
that is a gamble on her part and on our part, but based on the trends over the past 4 or 5 years, revenues have been going up at our traditionally normal rates during that period of time. So I don't think it's much of a risk that revenues will be at least the same based on the September payments of taxes by various entities.
So if revenues are what you project them to be, the budget would then probably be, you'd submit the budget you submitted, which she vetoed.
Yes, but in September, her contention is that for this year, there will be insufficient money left over, not because of revenues, but because we haven't taken into account certain expenditures where the cash payment is made in June, July, and August, but they really go back to the fiscal year that ends in June. In other words, she thinks we're going to be overspending now, and the legislature hasn't taken that into account in its budget. We start our budget off for the next 2 years, assuming that we're going to carry over some unspent money from 2015, the current year.
And she thinks you won't be carrying that over.
She thinks we will be, but not the same amount.
Okay.
And that is, I think, the real nub of why she vetoed the budget.
How much money are we talking about?
We assume we're going to carry over about $49,000.
Million. Okay. I know it's tough for us to add the zeros. But I would think 49,000 would be something you guys wouldn't fight over.
You're right about that, John. And in her budget, she carried over about $13 million. So there's a difference, a significant difference in our expectations about how expenses in the current budget will end.
I mean, we're talking 11.3 or 11.33. I mean,
it's true, but when we do budgets, we budget very carefully. For example, the legislative budget ends up with a surplus at the end of 16-17 of about $250,000.
250,000
on an $11.3 billion budget. That's how close to the line we are.
That's razor thin.
It is razor.
Right. So you guys have to be quite precise in your estimates and relatively conservative, I'd imagine.
We spend money up to what we have in the legislative budget. We don't raise taxes like the governor did, and we live within our means. But we spend up to the amount of money we have available, and that's, as you pointed out, a razor-thin margin.
So when we find out what will likely happen, will the budget go forward?
If the legislature is right about the amount remaining, we probably will go forward with this budget into the future, and the governor then will have only a couple of reasons not to sign it. The business taxes, which we already mentioned, she doesn't like those. Whether or not there's an employee pay increase, We didn't put one in, although we offered a partial one. The governor rejected that. If revenues turn out to be better than anticipated, that might go back. And the final thing that she had a problem with was the fact that this budget does not provide for the continuation of expanded Medicaid.
And let's stop there because we're out of time in this segment.